This video explores the real and often overlooked reason behind procrastination and why so many people find themselves stuck in cycles of delay, even when they clearly know what they need to do in their daily lives. The truth is procrastination is not simply a lack of discipline, but rather a deeply rooted mental pattern that develops from repeated thoughts, emotional conditioning, and subconscious resistance to discomfort. Whenever you feel hesitation, it is often your mind creating protective loops that attempt to avoid failure, judgment, or even success itself. Over time, these loops become automatic, shaping your behavior without conscious awareness and keeping you trapped in a cycle of intention without execution. Dr. Joseph Murphy emphasized that the subconscious mind plays a powerful role in shaping our actions, habits, and beliefs. And when we repeatedly entertain thoughts of doubt, fear, or delay, we unconsciously program ourselves to respond with inaction instead of progress. According to this perspective, procrastination is not just a time management issue, but a reflection of internal mental programming that can be changed through awareness, repetition, and deliberate thought direction. When you begin to understand that your outer behavior is a mirror of your inner belief system, you gain the ability to interrupt these patterns and replace them with empowering mental instructions that support action rather than avoidance. This shift is the foundation of breaking free from procrastination and moving toward decisive, purposeful living. Where most people struggle is not in knowing what to do, but in overcoming the invisible resistance that arises the moment action is required. This resistance is often disguised as overthinking, perfectionism, or waiting for the right time. Yet these are simply mental defenses that keep you within your comfort zone. Dr. Joseph Murphy taught that by impressing the subconscious with clear, positive, and consistent thoughts, you can gradually reshape your automatic responses and replace hesitation with confidence. This means that every small action you take while consciously directing your thoughts in a positive direction strengthens your ability to act without delay. Over time, this practice builds momentum and transforms your identity from someone who delays to someone who decides and executes consistently. The purpose of this video is to guide you into that transformation by helping you recognize the mental patterns that keep you stuck and showing you how to replace them with focused, intentional thinking that leads to immediate action. In doing so, you begin to break the emotional attachment to delay and start building a stronger connection with discipline, clarity, and purpose. This is not about forcing yourself through pressure, but about training your mind to naturally prefer action over avoidance and gradually aligning your subconscious patterns with your conscious goals. When this alignment begins, procrastination loses its power over your life, and you start experiencing a sense of control that allows you to move forward with clarity, focus, and determination. Each day becomes an opportunity to reinforce this new mindset and to step closer to the life you intentionally. Continuing from the understanding of procrastination as a deeply rooted mental and subconscious pattern, it becomes essential to recognize how daily thoughts and repeated inner dialogue quietly shape the way decisions are made throughout the day. Without conscious awareness, most individuals believe they are freely choosing to delay tasks, yet in reality their actions are heavily influenced by internal programming built from past experiences, emotional associations, and habitual thinking patterns that reinforce avoidance. Whenever a task feels emotionally uncomfortable, the mind quickly searches for justification to postpone it, creating a false sense of logic that makes delay seem reasonable even when it is not. This is where the cycle becomes self-sustaining, because each act of postponement strengthens the belief that action can be safely delayed again in the future. Dr. Joseph Murphy often explained that the subconscious mind does not distinguish between productive and unproductive thoughts. It simply accepts repeated ideas as truth and begins to reflect them in behavior, which means that every time you entertain thoughts like "I will do it later" or "I am not ready yet," you are essentially reinforcing a mental blueprint that supports procrastination instead of progress. Over time, this internal programming becomes so familiar that it feels like personality rather than pattern, making it harder to recognize that change is even possible. However, the moment awareness is introduced, the entire structure begins to weaken because awareness interrupts automatic behavior and create space for conscious choice. In that space lies the power to redirect thought and behavior toward action rather than hesitation. One of the most important shifts required to overcome procrastination is learning to tolerate temporary discomfort without escaping into distraction or delay. Discomfort is often the trigger that activate avoidance, but it is also the exact signal that growth is about to occur. When you consistently choose to act despite the discomfort, you begin to retrain the mind to associate action with safety rather than threat. This gradual conditioning process is how new habits are formed at the subconscious level, and it is the foundation of lasting change. Instead of waiting for motivation to appear, you begin to act first and allow motivation to follow, which is a complete reversal of the procrastination cycle. Dr. Joseph Murphy emphasized the importance of feeding the mind with constructive and purposeful thoughts, because whatever is repeatedly impressed upon the subconscious eventually becomes the dominant expression in behavior. This means that the language you use internally plays a direct role in shaping your level of productivity and consistency. When you replace thoughts of delay with thoughts of certainty and capability, your emotional response to tasks begins to shift accordingly, and what once felt overwhelming becomes manageable through repetition. This mental restructuring does not happen instantly, but it builds gradually through consistent application of focused thinking and immediate action. Each time you choose to begin instead of postpone, you are effectively rewriting the subconscious script that once governed your behavior and replacing it with a new identity grounded in discipline and clarity. Over time, this creates a powerful internal alignment where your thoughts, intentions, and actions begin to work together instead of against each other. And as this alignment strengthens, procrastination loses its influence and is replaced by a natural tendency to take initiative without unnecessary hesitation, allowing you to move through your goals with greater confidence, direction, and control. Building further on this understanding of procrastination as a mental and subconscious pattern, it becomes necessary to explore how transformation actually takes place in real life rather than in theory. Because awareness alone is not enough unless it is followed by consistent behavioral change rooted in repetition and intentional practice. The human mind is naturally shaped by habits, and every habit begins with a thought that is repeated often enough to become automatic. So when procrastination has been reinforced over time, it cannot simply be removed by motivation or temporary inspiration. Instead, it must be replaced through a structured process of new mental conditioning where action becomes the default response rather than hesitation. Dr. Joseph Murphy's teachings emphasize that the subconscious mind responds most strongly to repeated emotionalized thoughts, meaning that what you consistently feel and believe internally will eventually manifest in your external behavior. Therefore, if a person continues to emotionally attach themselves to thoughts of delay, fear, or inadequacy, those patterns will continue to reproduce themselves in daily life, even when the individual consciously desires change. This is why many people feel stuck between intention and execution. They want to act, but their subconscious conditioning pulls them back into familiar patterns of avoidance. However, the key to breaking this cycle lies in repetition of a new identity based on action, certainty, and discipline, where each decision to act immediately rather than delay becomes a form of mental reprogramming that gradually weakens the old habit structure and strengthens a new one. It is important to understand that change does not require perfection, but consistency. Even small actions taken repeatedly with awareness begin to reshape the nervous system and the subconscious associations attached to effort and discomfort. For example, when you choose to begin a task without waiting for the perfect moment, you are sending a powerful internal message that action is safe and achievable, and over time this message becomes stronger than the old programming that associated tasks with stress or resistance. In this way, procrastination is not eliminated through force, but dissolved through replacement as the mind naturally adapts to the new pattern that is being reinforced. Dr. Joseph Murphy often highlighted the importance of imagining yourself already embodying the desired state, because the subconscious mind tends to accept vivid and repeated mental images as reality. When you consistently see yourself As someone who acts promptly and confidently, you begin to align your behavior with that internal image, and this alignment reduces internal conflict, making action feel more natural and less forced. Another critical aspect of this transformation is emotional regulation, because procrastination is often fueled by temporary emotional discomfort, such as fear of failure, fear of imperfection, or fear of judgment. When you learn to observe these emotions without reacting to them, you create a space between feeling and action, and in that space you regain control over your decisions. Instead of being controlled by immediate emotional impulses, this ability to pause, observe, and then choose action consciously is what separates reactive behavior from intentional living. And over time, this practice builds a stable foundation of discipline where action is no longer dependent on mood, but on identity and principle. As this new identity strengthens, the individual begins to experience a shift in self-perception, no longer seeing themselves as someone who struggles with delay, but as someone who naturally follows through and completes what they begin. And this internal transformation becomes the true solution to procrastination, because once identity changes, behavior follows effortlessly and consistently, leading to long-term growth, success, and personal mastery.